Welcome, BBCers, to episode number 224 of the Broken by Concept podcast, the number one solo queue educational and motivational podcast. Curtis, big last weekend now. Worlds 2024 came to a epic conclusion. Faker wins his fifth title, T1, third final in the row, 1-2. And obviously lost one to Dirax in 2022. And we talked about this last year. And when we talked about this last year, Curtis, we were like, wow, that's insane. Faker's like, a legacy, the GOAT. And this year for me, it's like I'm lost for words. It's no longer a conversation of, he's like the best player, League of Legends of all time. It's just like this guy is like, pushing that legacy forward as one of the greatest, if you compare it to traditional sports, up there with like the Michael Jordans, obviously, of like League of Legends. He's had two eras, right? He's had his 2013, he didn't make it 14, 15, 16, and then he's had a second era as well in 2022, 2023, 2024. Already for League of Legends pro players, that's unheard of. He's been with one team for 11 years. He won his first title 11 years ago, World Championships. I'm actually just lost for words. I predicted BLG to win that final 3-1. It was very late for us here in Australia, so I went to sleep. It was 2-1 up for BLG versus T1, and I just went to sleep. I was like, oh, this is going to be 3-1, as I predicted, because I'm like, yeah, I'm just a genius, right? And I woke up, and I swear I was still in a dream. And then I saw the results. That was 3-2, and I had to go look at game 4 and 5. And I was so close. BLG, game 4, they were in a position to win.
They could have won that game.
100%.
They could have won game 4 and 5, actually.
Yeah. It was just nuts. And I was just absolutely speechless. And everyone's obviously, glazing Faker as like he truly is a legend of the game. It's just incredible.
Yeah, it's look, it's hard to not sound like a broken record with Faker, but to me the most impressive thing is just the sheer the sheer motivation. He has everything, right? I mean, he's made so much money. He's won multiple world titles. He's already made his mark on esports. To be consistently playing at the highest level and have the drive,
the meta changes
through thick and thin. I don't think, as well, again, it's very difficult for the average person to even fully understand how mentally taxing an entire split of pro level League of Legends actually is. The scrims, the constant, dealing with meta changes. You're having to balance solo queue with constant scrimming. And then not to mention you're rocking up to these international tournaments with everyone having a target on your back. Everyone is trying to beat you. Every player is watching your games, studying your game, studying how you play, what champions you play, how you play. Everyone, it's like you need to not only be better, like you need to be able to it's hard to even comprehend even the mental toll as well. If you think about it, right? It's like you've achieved so much. Everyone is looking at you. Everyone is relying on you. The team itself relies on him, right? As when you remember he was not well, and then they subbed him out, and then they lost like every single game. They've become one of the worst.
He's had wrist issues this year.
It is so inspiring.
Yeah.
And that's what I would take away. It's genuinely inspiring what someone can actually achieve with dedication and just by being obsessed, and I think the thing for me as well, I would say in terms of the actual gameplay. Okay, I want to just take we spoke about it with Charlie as well. Like we're just making some very rudimentary observations between Chovy and Faker. And there was a play that really stuck out to me. There's one play, I think it might have even been, I can't remember if it was game 3, game 4, I can't remember specifically, but there was a play where I think he was playing Akali. And Yone. And what happened? Yeah, Yone. And what happened is that they were rifting the mid tower, and the mid tower was very low. And he could have easily just got the rift hit off or whatever, and then he could have just went back to the side lane, but the mid tower still would have been up, and then all would have been good. He literally went in with his E on Yone, finished off the tower with the demolish proc, and died for it. Now, Chovy would never have made that play. the way Chovy plays is incredibly like, he needs to get all of his farm, valuing his life, and he plays the fights basically flawlessly for the most part. He plays them mechanically flawlessly. His laning is exceptional, whatever. But the missing piece, the bridge, I think that Faker has, is that Faker thinks holistically about the game.
He's not afraid to make that look dirty or messy.
He's not afraid to make it messy. He's not afraid to put himself individually in maybe not the greatest position, whether it's sacking a wave, whether it's blowing his flash, whether it's like, sacrificing his life for someone else in a team fight. He's willing to do things the ugly way because he knows that this is better for the grand scheme of that particular game. And the impact getting that tier 1 tower had on that game was profound. That changed the entire feel of that game. But that's a play that I saw that it's like, I just don't see Chovy making that play. Chovy's not willing to die. He's not willing to sacrifice his life to sometimes, he in a way, it almost made me feel like it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. He feels like he has to play perfectly and carry the team in a way where it's maybe he's missing opportunities because he's got that lens. And he's been rewarded for having that lens, right? If you think about it, everyone puts him on a pedestal, the greatest mid laner. He's like the best solo queue player, whatever. But I think that's to a detriment now. And I think where Chovy needs to go in his career is really take a long, hard look at his gameplay, not through the lens of like, am I doing my job? But am I actually doing everything I can for the game holistically? How do my decisions actually stack up in the game holistically? And that's where I think you also, I'm obviously not saying you're fake or anything.
Yes.
But a lens that I think you've already intuitively grasped, and I think that maybe to a flaw, right? Maybe
I go to the extreme.
To the extreme, where you're too willing to maybe make that play that is good for the team sometimes that may screw you over individually. And I think that can limit you in your solo queue a little bit. But I think that you have the eye for that. You understand that. And I think it also, to be fair, is more intuitive as a jungler than it is as a solo laner, right? But I think that's the level where Faker's at. Faker's transcended. He's not a mid laner. He's just a League of Legends an aficionado. You know what I mean? He's just trying to win the game of League of Legends at whatever cost. It doesn't matter how ugly it looks.
Yeah, he literally does not care how he looks.
No, he doesn't give a shit.
It's just about killing the Nexus.
Killing the Nexus. And so just so happens, yes, sure, he'll do some nice plays, and he plays fights very incredibly well. Like with the Akali, his Akali skirmishing was incredibly well. Amazing stuff, whatever. Faker on his Yone, whatever. So he can do his job like that if he needs to, but he has that next level that I think Chovy is missing. That's just one simple observation.
The concern with, Worlds and League esports and stuff now is like, obviously Faker, you'd think that he's come into close to retirement. He says he's at least playing another year, right? Well, actually, there's no signs of him retiring. Because he's got so many Worlds titles to his name, it's like the person who's like next up in line, Chovy, and you'd say maybe Knight from China, the LPL, right? They have 0 titles, right? So like to get to that level of like, it's going to be so difficult for them to even get close to the level of Faker. So like, it's a little bit concerned for like the next generation because he's had 2 eras. Like theoretically, this should have been Chovy's era, right? Chovy should have already won like at least 1 or, 2. Like, people were saying maybe Showmaker was the next one, right? He won 1 and then he was in the finals for another, right? And then he's sort of like, dropped off a bit now, right? So that's sort of like the concern a little bit. It's like, is it only downhill from now? We get this also, the last recent Worlds was the most viewed esports event ever of all time, and you'd think that, unless Faker's in it again, next year wins again, right? This might just be like the peak, right? So that is the concern.
But I also think as well, one thing that not many people talk about with Faker is that there are many out-of-game elements to Faker that make him a world champion. Being a great individual player is only one half the equation. He's a leader, obviously. He sets the culture in the team, but also he's obviously had a pretty significant say in the direction of the actual team in terms of their management decisions. Having the same roster for T1. I mean, you look at, I remember there was there was like a bit of controversy because my partner's actually Chinese and she went on to the Chinese threads, right?
Yeah.
And they saw that Knight, after they lost, like unfollowed BLG's
Are you serious?
account.
No way.
Yeah, and so like they and the Chinese social media, they're very critical of like, they're going to disband, they're not going to be able to replicate T1.
Yeah.
It's not the roster's fault. They need to just be better. They need to stay together. But then what happens? None of these teams band together. None of these teams stay together.
And that's the best player on that team to step up and say, okay, some of you guys, we messed up here. I'm not going to point fingers. Like, let's just stick at it again. Let's just have another crack. That is so unheard of.
That's unheard of
in esports specifically. Like,
Yeah.
if you look at Faker's career just for team, like you can literally count in League of Legends how on one hand how many players have been with the same team organization for more than 3 years. Like 4 years might be pushing. You got like obviously Bjergsen in with TSM and like Uzi with RNG and stuff, but it's so rare. And he's like, again, people getting close to those achievements is just so hard. And you guys, again, going back to like we've done the esports thing, like scrims beats you down, going to international events. Like Faker's been going to like MSIs and Worlds, like almost he just has no break.
Streaming as well. He streams.
It's like the normal player, even the best players that we've seen can't even get.
And you
close
know how
to
many
this.
excuses the pro players would have? Oh, I got to do this media thing. I got to do it. He does. Imagine how many advertisements and
He's like the face of
he's like the face of
Korea.
esports essentially, right?
In Korea, he's like a pop star.
He's a pop star. So
K-pop,
imagine
whatever
how
it is.
many excuses he would have to not perform, but through everything he still performs, and that is. Again, it's the utter responsibility, accountability, going above and beyond, not only as a League of Legends player, but as a competitor. And that's what sets him apart. It's not about the game. It's not about the in-game anymore. I mean, there's an element of that, sure, but it's more than that.
It's the leadership and
it's the leadership.
And they've had Coma's obviously been and come back and stuff like that. Like he's been obviously clearly a huge part of the management of
Definitely.
the leadership of the organization. So it's absolutely incredible. Like I generally, I'll say it here, I don't think he'll win again. Like I might people be like, you're absolutely.
Someone's gonna clip this.
Yeah, clip this
for next year.
I mean, the road to this year, Curtis, was again he had wrist issues, right? That just like sub him out. They were one game away from not even making to Worlds,
and they could have easily lost many of the games in especially the one. What was the game? Was it the one where Chovy was playing Tristana?
The game for when they lost that.
They
game
should
for,
like. I feel like BLG should have won that game.
Yeah,
like that fight around mid. They should have won that fight.
Yeah.
It was where they picked Faker on mid.
Oh, you're talking about Gen G, not BLG. That's the
Gen G, the semifinal. Yeah, the semifinal.
Yeah.
Like they should have. You know what I mean? Like even that one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's even the semifinal. That's not even the grand final. Like they could have lost so many games. Could have gone completely different. So.
But it's also inspirational for the fact that, people always think that, you're going to be like a young whippersnapper.
Yeah.
But
totally.
as you said, it's the in-game, but it's also the outer game. And he brings
Mindset.
both. It's really important. So, he's I think he's the same age as us, so like 28, 29. So, yeah, who knows? Maybe I'm completely wrong and he's winning Worlds at 33. He has like another era or whatever. Who knows? But incredible.
So I wanted to, let's get back to solo queue for a second here. One of the topics I wanted to talk about here, this is something that I'm going to continue. This is my theme. We talk about themes. It's going to be hopefully my theme for the next month and 2 months. And I am going to hopefully make a YouTube video on this in the coming weeks. So frequently you'll see conversations, whether it's in the broader league community or our Discords, that go along the lines of, why is it that I feel like I played well this game and I stomped, and the next game I feel like I played the same, I had the same early game, I did everything well, and I got annihilated. And like they feel as though their performance isn't really changing all that much. They're making the same caliber of decisions, yet the results are just completely different. And there are many reasons. Obviously there is, you have different teammates, different champions, whatever. The
snowball nature of the game as well.
One decision can have a completely change the entire trajectory of a game. Something that I've really come to understand is something, and I've been very vocal about this on the podcast, is my mental block with Nidalee. And I haven't really been able to articulate clearly. I've kind of, hinted at things and I've said, I just don't like the kit, whatever. But there's actually a very clear reason why I don't like Nidalee. And this ties into my point, which is that in solo queue, there are two main factors that make a game hard or easy. This is a generalization. I'll get more detail in a second. And that is composition coherence and ease of execution. Okay, what I mean by those two factors, the first one, coherence, is how do the champions, what do they want to do? Do they want to do similar things? Or do they want to do different things? So for example, let's say you have one of the games I played today that was on the enemy team, that had Camille, that had Diana, and that had Galio. As beautiful as it gets in terms of coherence, those champions are incredibly coherent together. They all want to dive in, get in the action, kill shit, they all want to fight a very similar way and do a similar thing. So so from a level of what they're trying to achieve in that game is very similar, and they can complement each other. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. In this case, 1 + 1 = 3. It's very overbearing being on the receiving side of multiple dive-oriented champions. Now, the beauty of those 3 champions as well is that in order to do what they want to do, it's also incredibly easy to execute. It's clear, right? It's like you have Galio, Diana, and Camille. It's not like they need to do some crazy seed. It's not like they've got a siege composition. It's not like they've got some like weird poke comp. Like, it's very quite clear what they need to do. It's easy to execute and it's coherent. The composition I had versus that comp, I was playing Syndra. I had a Syndra Rek'Sai. Syndra Rek'Sai, it's not that it's terrible. It just doesn't have a ton of coherence.
No.
Right? Rek'Sai's kind of diving in. Syndra doesn't have the best follow-up. It's a little...
She's really like slow. So, you know, Rek'Sai could E in and then you're just a tad too far. Like, I've actually experienced this a lot with playing with Syndra. This has actually been... I actually love playing with Syndra, but I've needed to really course correct towards the Syndra. You have to like really be aware of where she is.
It's not terrible.
Yeah.
But it's not amazing.
Amazing, yeah.
Right? And then the rest of the composition was a Kayle top, and then I think we had a Smolder Nami. Just think about that comp for a second. Smolder Nami, Kayle, Rek'Sai, Syndra. So if you think about that composition from a coherence perspective, what does it really do? You have very limited engage. You have very limited...
You have no front line.
No front line. Like, what does it actually... Like, in terms of coherence, it's quite all over the place. What does Kayle want to do?
Yeah.
Kayle probably wants the side lane, but then you've got, like... Then you would need really clear disengage. You got a Smolder Nami. He's not the great... It's just... Rek'Sai...
I mean, obviously, people will say it's like a sort of front-to-back sort of slow comp, but you can't... Realistically, you can't even play it that way because...
No front line.
You're just getting no front line. It's not front-to-back. It's just getting obliterated.
So my point is that it's... Again, it's not that you auto-lose, but it's difficult because of the lack of coherence, right? And also, from an ease of execution, it's not easy to execute whatsoever. There's not much room for error. Now it gets even compounded even further, Nathan. It's not just about those 2 factors, about coherence of your composition and the ease of execution of your composition. It's how that stacks up relative to the composition that you're versing. So if you really think about it, there are 4 potential outcomes. Easy to execute and coherent composition on both sides. And then there's actually a shit ton of combinations. There's more than that, but you get the point. So the extreme outcome would be, like, again, the Galio, Camille, like, let's say dream composition. Galio, Diana, Camille, Leona, Kai'Sa. Easy to execute, clear as hell identity, coherent, whatever, into my composition. Smolder, Nami, Syndra, Kayle, Rek'Sai. What you've got is like 2 extremes at this stage. You got on one side, very hard to execute, not coherent. Very easy to execute, incredibly coherent. Now, that doesn't mean the game is over by any means. What it means is that there is less room for error on one side of the team and more room for error on the other team. That team on the right-hand side, that the Galio and all that, they can probably be sloppy around the edges. They can be they might mess up their mid-game lane assignments. They might be late to objectives. They may not have the greatest win con assessment. You can be really rough around the edges and still eke your way a victory.
You still have tools. You can always kill people no matter how behind you are. Yeah.
But on the other side, you make one mistake with the mid-game macro. You have the wrong lane assignment. You don't track threats. You fall asleep at the wheel in one lull state. The game can explode very quickly, and you can get punished. The game can just implode. Now, the reason I'm kind of...
So where does this come into Nidalee, Curtis?
Okay, where this comes into Nidalee is that Nidalee, there's not many champions in the game that can actually create a coherent composition with Nidalee.
I see.
And
it's going to be the classic, the AD mid,
or like the Lissandra, Pantheon. Think about it. What are the champs I want to play with Nidalee? Lissandra, Pantheon...
champs that can CC,
Galio.
so then she can get spears off.
There's not many. There's like a handful of champions in the game that are actually really like mid laners specifically that want to actually synergize with Nidalee. And even at that point, even if you have the coherence, it's not actually, it struggles with the ease of execution. So the chances are when you have a Nidalee on your composition, it either is incredibly difficult to execute or it's not coherent whatsoever. So it's like it makes every composition ugly and lacks coherence.
I see.
That's exactly why.
So the summary here is that there is certain champions in the game that require to have good games or make your games easier, require certain champions on your team, which you're sort of relying on people to sort of pick.
That's
one that I can think of is like Kale top. Like
Yes.
Kale top it's risky to be picking that sort of thing.
It makes every comp ugly.
It's ugly.
Now,
yeah.
again, this is not to say it doesn't work.
Ezreal
It can work.
Yumi.
But the quality of the conversation, what you get is either someone like me venting and say, Nidalee is the shittest champ in the game, it's the worst champ. Or someone who mains it thinks it's the best champ of the game and they make it pop off. The reality is that champion's given effectiveness is completely tied to the compositions at play. Right? What are the compositions in that particular solo queue at play? And tying back to my other point, Nathan, when people say, well, why is it that one game I feel like I play the exact same? The reason, right, is that one game they can be falling asleep at the wheel in lull states, but they just have an easy to execute coherent composition. If I'm that Galio in that game with a Camille, Kaiser Leona, and a Diana, I could probably be really sloppy with my lull states, alt tabbing on Facebook. I'd probably rock up to a few fights late. Oh, I press R, they engage, boom. We probably can win the game, and I can be sloppy around the edges. So let's say I could probably make 5 key mistakes and still win the game. If I'm Syndra in this composition, with a Smolden army and a KO on the Rek'Sai, I might make 1 or 2 errors and I'm out of the game. I can't get back in the game. Yep. And to the point where I played that game, that was the compositions in this game this morning. I got a double kill in the early game and I still couldn't do much. And I did this thought experiment. I'm like, if the Galio got the double kill in this instance,
then there's no way.
There's no way
I'm getting back in this.
You know
game.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if the Camille got the double kill, so that just showed to me like, that's the way I want people to mentally reconcile. It's one of the major factors that goes into what makes a game easy or hard. And I guess what I'm getting into, what I mean by easy and hard is room for error. Yeah. Room for error.
Yeah, that's a very important, helpful tool that I've definitely developed. So then I don't lose my mind.
That's what you do, Nathan. That's what high level players intuitively realize. That the superpower that we have, Nathan, is the ability to look at a game, know the value of a particular mistake. If you're Rek'Sai in that game and you get behind, you're not confused why you lose that game in 15 minutes. No. You know exactly why you lose that game in 15 minutes. But let's say a gold 3 Rek'Sai who makes that one single mistake, loses that game in 15 minutes, they're probably thinking, what the hell? I made this exact same mistake last game, but won that game.
Yeah, or it didn't feel this hard.
It didn't feel that hard. Why?
And on another inverse is that I did these level 3 ganks and I just got this guy ahead and then they carried the game
exactly.
And I did that the next game, but I lose, right? So that's where League really messes up with people because there's so many variables. You get tricked. You think, and this is where people over course correct, think, I'll blame the champion, blame my teammates. They quickly just come to these conclusions because of how much variance they feel in their games.
And this is where that quote really comes into play. One of my favorite quotes I said on the Skool post. Everything makes sense. It's just your view of reality. Right? And so think about it. If you don't have that knowledge, if you don't have the knowledge of how compositions fundamentally interact, and you don't understand champ composition coherence and ease of execution, difficulty of execution, well, you're going to fill that hole that's missing with whatever's convenient to you, whatever you have in your mental model, which is teammates, meta, Riot, whatever the fuck it is, this guy's trolling, whatever. You're going to replace it with something else, whatever, because you know there's something off about this game. You don't have the answer. You're just going to conveniently plug that hole with something else. And that's where it comes. And that's where the complexity of League really bites people in the ass.
Now, this tool, I would say, can also be used dangerously as well, Curtis, because sometimes people can overemphasize team comp. They start mentally checking out because they think, I've experienced this.
I experience this all the time. It's one of my biggest stage 4 issues.
But then I get into, like, I've been on both ends of this. I have a game that should theoretically be like impossible to win, and we just absolutely just brute force and just play so well. Don't disrespect the execution part of the game, right? And still doing your job. If you do your job really well, even though it's a hard job, you can still like really convincingly win games. And I've also been on the receiving end of a game where in my mind, there's no way we have a large room for error, but we make mistake, and then it's just a whitewash. So you can't go too much on the extreme of like looking at the team composition and blaming it and stuff like that, because there still is the element of execution. And, you know, as we said, it's not as you said, it's not the fact that it's game over. It's the room for
Yes.
error. That's understanding that room for error.
Exactly right. And you absolutely spot on. You should never assume that everyone in the game has champion mastery with their champ.
That's right.
You don't know.
I had someone in my program, they sort of their summary of this game was they were against the full AD comp or Yasuo mid or whatever, a heavy AD comp, and then his laner picked Malphite mid, 0 champ mastery, absolutely was never tanky because he got so far behind in lane and just ruined the game. He was like 0-10 or whatever, right? Yeah. So that's a good example where people overemphasize comp. They think, oh, I picked Malphite, I'm just playing for LP, I'm going to win. Never played a game of Malphite mid in their lives. Bam.
Yep, exactly right. And yeah, so you got to be aware of this variable. You got to be aware of the whole champ mastery thing. You got to be aware that, like you said, execution. People can just have an off day. They might be playing their best champion, but shit hits the fan. Or maybe, you know, in that game, Rek'Sai gets a really good gank off, gets really head, snowballs the Kayle snowballs out of country, you just win that game. Anything can happen, but it is just an element of the solo queue journey that you should just keep in mind. It's a useful toolkit to help you deal with stage 4 issues. And that's what I use it for. It's not necessarily to analyze games hardcore, you know, through the lens of like min-maxing my matchmaking or my champ select. It's more so to make peace with difficult games.
Now, people will be asking Curtis, well, how do I achieve this superpower? Curtis and Nathan, you're so experienced with the game. You've been playing for so long. What would you say to them?
So I'm going to talk about this in one of my YouTube videos coming up, but it's a very important question. So this is where using your emotions and your feelings to guide your learnings is very, very important. So let's say, for example, you queue up. Let's say you're playing your Rek'Sai, Nathan. Say there's maybe a goal player who wants to inspired by your gameplay playing Rek'Sai. And they have this game and they just felt like every skirmish was just really hard. I felt like they just didn't know how to approach fights. It felt like they're going in and they just die, you know? And so they may not even understand logically why that was the case, but they'll feel really like they'll feel maybe stressed.
I couldn't do anything.
Confused. I couldn't do anything. Yeah. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't go in. I felt like I couldn't go in. And so you come out of that game and you say, okay, you make some notes, make some observations. What felt hard to deal with here? You might make some very rudimentary baseline observations. Oh yeah, that Vex, that was kind of annoying. The Ahri having mobility and that charm was annoying. The Lux Q was actually really... You just make some very small observations, right? Now, over time, as you have more and more of these experiences, of more painful experiences, you might start to see some commonalities. Actually kind of feels really annoying when they have a lot of CC, or it feels really annoying. These champs that have mobility like that, they're kind of annoying to deal with. Like I can't lock them down. And
another good question is, my teammates were not able to do damage. Why? Why was my team not doing damage in this fight?
Why?
Look at their positioning.
And why couldn't we kill this guy?
Yeah.
What? And then you might make observations about items. So you have champ level observations like about kits. You might have other observations about items. You might, Zonya's, that was really annoying to deal with. The Banshees, that was really annoying to deal with. Oh, when they had whatever that item is, that was really annoying. So you might have champ level observations, item level observations, rune observation, bone plating. Oh shit, I didn't factor that one in. Okay, make a mental note. Over time, what you're doing is that you're creating a library, or like you're hoarding like all this knowledge, and then eventually, with experience, you'll be able to then be like, "Ooh, I've seen that before. That champ is annoying. Wow, they have 3 champs that are annoying this game. Ooh, interesting. I've struggled into that champ historically. Okay, chances are I got to be a little bit careful, and you start to realize, when these champs are in the game, these make my life miserable. Vice versa, when I have these champs on my team, feels great. Why? And then again, this is the flip side of the coin. Why does some games feel easy? Why does it just feel like you had this game and everything went well, fights are super easy, you snowballed, won the game in 18 minutes? Why was that? What were you playing with? What do the fights look like? Again, the observations can be incredibly basic. It doesn't matter. It's like, I just like playing. You may not even understand. Like, even early on in my journey, it's like, I just like playing with Xin Zhao. It's like, and I don't even need to understand why. So I just like it. It works well with my champs. I just feel it creates a lot of space. Cool. I don't even understand. I don't even need to understand. And you create a catalog, you catalog. And then over time, as your game knowledge gets better, you'll be able to make sense of that information.
Yeah, then you'll be able to understand why this is out specifically. And then that's where you become a really good player.
That's when you draw conclusions.
Yes.
You'll be able to then tie that into proper principles or whatever that you'll be able to follow. It's a
You know-
long-term iterative process.
And you know where that all stems from, Curtis? One of the BBC word of the month, word of the year of curiosity.
Yes.
You've got to be curious, asking these questions. You'd say to your first thought after you lose a fight, who made the mistake? Who didn't use their ultimate ability? Asking, how could I have played the fight better? Why were they able to win so decisively? And why was it a stomp? A really good example, Curtis, is a really pragmatic one is Katarina playing Rek'Sai against Katarina. Let's say in a fight, Katarina's getting ults off. What happens if I just hold my W, my knock up the entire time and wait for her to ult? That's a completely different outcome of the fights.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. The curiosity is the hard bit. I want to give you a story of this week's solo queue, right? So I had this game, I'm playing Syndra into Fizz, and I'm slow building into this Fizz. I got I think it was like a 2.5 stack wave, pretty big wave. And a fight happens in the river between the top laner and the jungle. And in my mind, the wave was so big, there's no way Fizz is going to ditch his wave and move. And Fizz just left the wave and moved. And got to the play, killed my jungler, and then the game just became really, really difficult. Because then my jungler got really far behind, they were playing Xin Zhao, they had a Graves, he got invaded. It was just a nightmare. That was like a really pivotal part of the game. In the heat of the moment, and even in the post-game, I was so angry, I couldn't actually be coherent enough to review it. I'm like, oh, that was a bad move from Fizz. I literally wrote
it doesn't make logical sense.
It doesn't make logical sense. That's not a good move from Fizz. I literally didn't even look at it.
Yeah.
And I looked at another play later on. And this is where I employed Alados, so shout out Alados at MLA Coach. He has a rule, that like a philosophy, and he has a term for it. I think it's called like the rubber band review or whatever, where basically you literally do what you can, a very, very rudimentary review, and then you come back later on and you re-review the same VOD. And so what I did, I got off the PC after that, I did a really baseline review, looked at one play, took something away from it, and had dinner, had a shower. I come back about an hour and a half later, I sit on the VOD and I say, you know what? Let's take a look at that play again with the Fizz. Let's take a look at it. What happened? What actually happened? And I come in, I'm curious, I'm not emotional at all anymore, and I noticed that I should just be preventing Fizz from moving. I could be making Fizz's life wet. My positioning was horrendous. My ability usage was horrendous. I used my E when I should never use my E. I should be poking with my W and Q. And I could actually make it really basically impossible for Fizz to move. And even if Fizz did move, I would get there first.
But didn't you have a slow building wave though?
I did, but I wasn't positioning on the top side of the lane.
I see. So you could have forced him.
I could have prevented him, even if he did move, I would have moved. I could have got that, because it's longer for him to loop around, behind that rock.
I see.
For me to get straight into the river.
So you were approaching it where you were just sitting back.
I was kind of in the middle of the lane,
Yeah.
and I just wasn't
just waiting for him to catch the wave.
Yeah, I didn't anticipate that he would move, and but either way, objectively, it's actually better for me to be positioned on the top side of the lane, because it killed two birds with one stone. I can poke the Fizz, still do everything I'm doing, and I can get to the river fight faster than Fizz if Fizz were to ditch the wave. It's a win-win scenario. So what I had to realize is that I failed my job. Your job when you're playing versus Katarinas, Fizzes, any of these kind of skirmish-oriented mid laners is to be the goalkeeper to prevent them from moving into the river, and I failed that. And also, secondly, when I did get into the river fight, I could have angled in a way where I could have pushed him further back with my E rather than kind of into the wall. And that actually would have also saved my Xin Zhao. So I had two incredibly insightful observations that I never would have had.
I
didn't get initially because I had this.
You threw it off as this makes no sense for Fizz to roam here, but you could have min-maxed it to prevent him.
I was in a judgment mode. This guy's bad. He made it bad. I'd already decided in my mind what the outcome should have been in that play. And because I wasn't open-minded and curious, I couldn't actually get the learning. So it wasn't until an hour and a half later where I did the Alados double rubber band review that I was able to actually get the learnings that I needed to have. And I was able to make peace with that. And there was a knot in my body that I was I couldn't let go of that play. It was still gnawing at me when I was having dinner, and when I was like, oh, that's why I had to get back on the PC and try to figure out what happened with that play. It pissed me off because I feel like I should have won that game. And that was the thing that really changed the entire trajectory of the game. So I want to make this as a public service announcement. It's okay to have a shit review and then come back later objectively, because We're human after all. It's hard. Sometimes you are going to be emotional. Sometimes it's hard to just be like straight into a hyperlogical like review process. Now, obviously that's the end goal, and hopefully you should be able to do that in majority of your games, but sometimes you are going to be pissed off, and that's just the way it is. We're not perfect.
Awesome. All right. My topic here, Curtis, I wanted to bring up was about long-term players, so players that have maybe been playing for 4+ years. This specific person that reached out here that gave me this topic here has actually played for 10 years and can't pick a role or stick to a role. So we talk about sticking to champions, Curtis, but literally can't stick to a role. And why this also brought up is now that with our We Teach League, we have a bunch of, we have the 5 roles, and we notice there is certain people that bounce between the academies. They switch from support to mid and stuff. And I sort of wanted to explore this a bit, like why people might be in the, a vicious cycle of trying to find the role for them, right? Specifically long-term players. I think if you're a newer player, testing out lots of roles, seeing what you like is really important, but sometimes it's a bit of a concern when players are just, switching between role after role. So here's one specifically for a question that reached out to me, said, how do you keep to one specific role? I've played League for around 10 years or so now, on and off. We've been honestly solidly around a silver player, hitting gold once, drop in on different roles. It's been top mid with earlier season being ADC. Started playing again regularly last season, Yasuo mainly, and this season I've had, I think, 400 games on Yasuo. But I've struggled to translate this to wins consistently, which has meant I've went from silver, hitting silver 2 down to bronze 4, then switched to jungle and then support, then ADC. Frustrated with jungle due to my inability to translate being fed to winning. Kane and Evelyn was thoroughly enjoying jungle and playing it, but just losing. Same issue as support with Pyke, got ahead and still lost. However, I just keep topsy-turvying because I'm playing game after game, staying in bronze and dropping, but it feels like the games are insurmountable. So I guess 2 questions. How do you keep to one role and how do you decide which role? As my fundamental knowledge of wave management etc. is bluntly crap, but it's normally mechanics that carry me through. And this is his OPGG currently. So we've got, Ezreal, Kane game, Ezreal, Vayne, new champ, Ezreal, Caitlyn, new champ. What's the new champ called?
Mbessa?
Mbessa, that's right. Caitlyn, Tristana, Yasuo, Jinx, Tristana, like it's a KSC variety bucket. Like we've made, ADC top. Now we're going on a bit of a jungle spree, support Pyke.
Yeah, it's not good.
So yeah, wanted to sort of explore this a bit. So again, specifically for the longer term players of what could be happening. So how about these are some facts with League, Curtis, right? So I guess it sort of depends like what you want to get out of the game, but this is a player that wants to improve, right? Now, the facts are, Curtis, that the most efficient way to improve at League is by sticking to one role and a very small group of champions. And the reason for that is so that you can build up understanding of how to win games with that champion. You don't have to think about builds or anything anymore. You can, play, you can start getting into that flow state. You can build up that, that muscle memory, the mental stack, so you can actually play League in the game. That's a fact. Now, I'm sure this person knows that fact, and everyone sort of knows that fact. People say how effective it is to, one trick or play one champion for a long period of time. Now, we've talked on this podcast before, Curtis, about how we think that one trick in is, for a niche select amount of players. That's why we recommend champ pool cycling. You play one champion for some time, and then you start building that up. Then you can play another champ, and then you can switch between champs. You can bring old champs back. So that's a fact. Now, let's say the person understands that fact. Why can't they stick to the role and champion? What sort of things would be happening there, we think?
I mean, I think this is the definition of stage 4 issues here. And specifically, I would say it's kind of like a defense mechanism and fixed mindset and ego problems. I mean, there could be many sources. So the root problem, right, is they are unsatisfied with their ability to climb through the ranks with said role or whatever, right? So they play, they're losing, and instead of actually persevering and problem solving, they're looking for a quick fix solution that will help them get over the line.
What they're doing is they're constantly looking at those games and instantly looking at all the flaws with that champion and role.
Yeah.
After they lose, every single time they lose, it's like, okay, I can't do this.
Because it's the easiest and most convenient thing to do,
It's
right?
extremely easy to see. It's very...
Any champ can look like the shittest champ in the game very quickly.
Yep. Because every champ has strengths and weaknesses.
That's exactly right. So realistically, when I see people like this, I just tell them it doesn't even matter what role you pick. The mindset you should have is you should dedicate, rain, hail, or shine, an extended period of time. Like I'm talking 6 months, right? Like we're talking 6 months to a given role, no matter what, and a given set of champs, no matter what. And we lay it up. We say, okay, we're going to start with this champion. And then every 100 games, we're going to champion cycle. And we do that. We're only staying within the role itself. Whatever, every 80 games, whatever it is you want to do. Or you might, depending on the rank, he's bronze. So I would stick with probably 1 champion, maybe a max 2. And then that's it. Only within, these are the champions that you're going to champion cycle with. And you're only playing in this role. That's it, no matter what. Now, what will happen is either one or two things happens, right? They I guess, are... They feel free knowing that there is no moving, like as in like there is no choice to be made.
It's like signing a contract. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, all right, I got to make do. This is my situation. I'm going to figure it out.
Figure it out. Yeah.
Or they just, again, capitulate and end up like
they say they get bored or whatever.
Get bored. They come up with another excuse and then they just can continue that cycle, or they quit, right? One or the other. Realistically, what they need to do is not overly complicated. It's the execution of it is hard. And we're here to say, there is no shortcut solution. There is no cookie cutter thing. There is no gimmick. There is no... every time you're role swapping, champ swapping, you are simply delaying the inevitable. Right? So the real question, right? The real question is why do you play League?
Yes.
That's the real question. Why do you play, what do you want to get out of your League experience? Do you want to use League as a very casual gaming experience where you're not really going to focus on the improvement and you're just going to kind of dick around with friends in normal games and ARAMs? That's okay. But if you genuinely want to take your hobby seriously and you want to push and you want to improve and you want to use it as a competitive outlet, you want to enter the flow state, then what you need to do is not overly complicated. You got to pick a role, pick a champion, and then send it. No matter what, no matter how shit you feel, no matter how anxious you feel, no matter how miserable you feel, you got to do it. That's it. It's a black or white. It's black or white. It's really A or B, yes or no. It's not that complicated. And it's just one of those things. And I think what it is, and where I think a lot of these people struggle is, this is where I'm saying that like we've given them, there's a problem solution, but if you go deeper than that and ask why, I would argue that maybe there's some fixed ego problems, comparing with friends, past achievements on other games or in real life.
Long-term players as well, Curtis, because they've been around the game for so long, he's switched so many champions
as well.
He thinks he could probably play every champion. Remember that gold review that we did, where he says every champion's easy, there's only 4 abilities. There's just not that... Not even just not understanding that there's levels to playing a champion, even the way you use your abilities against certain comps and champions and stuff like that. But also just the element of like, you can take your champion to the next level, and climbing through with one champion through the awesome part about League is that you can like sort of see the progress with a champion. You can get to, gold and you can start feeling what it feels like to play like my champion in gold games and platinum games and emerald games and diamond games. That's such a fun experience that people never, like these type of players don't get a feeling or grasp of. They just don't think that exists. They think that it's just like this.
Yeah. No, it's hard. I will say, like, I've had this discussion before many times where it's like, it's hard to articulate how deep Champ Mastery goes.
Yeah, it is difficult.
It's really, really, really difficult. So I would say the closest thing in my life that I could maybe try and compare it to that maybe we can resonate with is, let's say, this is going to sound so silly, but when I was in high school, this is how dumb I was. I thought that like there was no value in like studying English. Like I thought that as long as I can operate in the real world, right?
Yeah.
As long as I could literally go to the store, get food, talk to people, and have basic conversation, that's all I ever need. I don't give a shit about being articulate. I don't understand, like, writing an essay.
Words don't move people. Words,
there was no understanding.
Like poetry doesn't exist.
Exactly. It didn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
And the reason I couldn't wrap my head around that is because I didn't understand that words and how articulate you are actually has many, many effects on the amount of trust that you can instill in other people, how engaging you can be with other people, how that can make you like instill authority, confidence.
Organize your thoughts.
Yeah, you can organize your own thoughts, which will allow you to develop ideas deeper. Becoming more articulate, more literate, and structure your ideas better have a massive chain series of events in many aspects of your life that you don't realize when you're younger a lot of the time. Maybe that was just the way I was brought up. I don't know. But that's why I'm tying that back to champ mastery.
I think that's a really good analogy, Curtis. I think that's
because he's
fantastic.
thinking it is like there's a kit and there's these 4 abilities and a passive, and that's all I can do. But if you think of it in this like very kind of rudimentary way, it's like I just got to hit minions, deal damage, that's it. You're missing all of the finesse. You're missing all the creativity. You're missing about what the unique ways you can kind of maximize that kit to get things done. It's not obviously apparent when you've never done that before. It's like when you've never been articulate in your life before and you only have had access to basic language. You don't even know what it feels like to move someone with your language. You don't know what you don't know what the other side of the coin's like. So you kind of just have to get inspired, and that's where in what inspired me to become probably, I guess, put more of an effort into that is looking at other speakers and being just pure admiration for how they're actually communicating. You know, and I'm like, wow, this person I'm so engaged. Like, this person is moving me with his words. Like, I'm just enamored just by the way this guy is talking. And then, you know, the equivalent of that in League of Legends would be looking at an OTP of that champion. They make it look like that champion is doing so much more than what you would even remotely think is possible. It would look cleaner, faster, more efficient, more damage,
more consistent,
tankier. It just won't look like the same champion. Yeah. Why? Because there is the levels of champ mastery. So you need to get inspired, and that's what getting inspired does go a very long way. I think that is an option anyway. So, yeah, hopefully that gives him something to maybe think about.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'll send that to him because he was curious. So, yeah.
I've got one more thing I do want to quickly talk about here, Nathan, if you don't mind. Or was there any something?
No, go ahead.
I wasn't going to talk about it. I actually reminded there was a Skool post that was talking about the reason you play League. And I actually answered this in a way because there was a comment that said, okay, so basically the post went something along the lines of, I play League because I feel like most people play League because it allows you to enter the flow state. And one of the responses was critical of that. They said, well, that's not true because most people who start playing League, they're not entering the flow state for years. Like they don't even know how to play the game. And so what I realized is that the reason you play League is constantly evolving. So the reason you play League at the very beginning is because it's a novel, fun game with all these interactions, cool abilities.
A lot of the time it's a cool
social thing
with friends.
Yeah. And it's just like a fun kind of like little game where you do a bit of damage. It's like a mythical, you know,
like there's like these cool characters champions I can play,
cool skins. Like you might start for these very kind of basic borderline, you know, childish reasons, but then as you get deeper into it, you're like, oh, wow, I love the strategic aspect of the game. And I love trying to figure out, or I really love the micro aspect and min-maxing my micro ability. I fall in love with the draft aspect of League of Legends. I fall in love with the champ mastery element, or I get addicted to the state of being in flow state, or I'm addicted to the competitive aspect, the brutal nature of the game. Your relationship and the reason why you fundamentally play League will actually evolve rapidly throughout the journey. Now, the reason this is actually apparent, Nathan, I mean, so the reason this is so important to understand is because you commonly see people be like, oh, I used to love this champion and I had a lot of results in this champion in the past, but now I don't really, like, I feel like I don't really like that champion anymore. Like, and they view it through this negative lens. And I'm like, the reason you're not motivated to play this champion anymore is because your view of the game is fundamentally different.
Yeah, it's changing, it's evolving.
It's evolving. So you need to like go with the flow. Like the chance that you're going to enjoy this year and the way you like to play is going to be completely different next year. Even like the amount of time you put into the game might change. Your intensity. You might not be motivated at all to have a process one split, and then the next be like, you know what? Actually, I'm really motivated to like have a process and take this seriously. So like, it's important just to note that it's not static. It's always evolving. It's always changing, and you need to be open to that idea. You're evolving at a personal level and as a player, at a human level and as a player. So it's just, you know, a lot of people don't kind of forget that, I think.
Especially since the league player as well, it's very different from playing like a single player game. It's like, oh, I play this game because it's just like fun, or like I like Dark Souls or whatever. Like league is as a hobby. It's a game that you play for a long periods of time. So you're changing personally outside of, you know, your life and watching streamers and watching content and you playing the game. It's inevitable that it's going to change. Be comfortable with that. Give yourself permission to change your view of, you know, how you want to enjoy the game.
It's completely different to the normal gaming experience. Like, oh, I'm going to play the new Black Ops, or I'm going to play the new Sims, or I'm going to play the new Baldur's Gate. It's like, you know, you're not playing those games long enough to actually change your relationship with the game a lot of the time, because you're just playing it, downloading it, whatever. You play it for like a few months and then you move on. More often than not. Not saying for everyone, but for more often than not. And that's just completely different. It's not even, it feels like League and that, they're not even in the same kind of, I wouldn't say they're both, I mean, they are theoretically both gaming, but like.
Well, this is where people get tripped up, Curtis,
tricked,
because they're not the same
not really
thing.
the same.
That's why I hate when League of Legends is grouped as like a game or a video game.
It's like you have like Sims and League of Legends.
yeah.
You know? Or like, what's another game? Like, you know, a very casual game that, like a single player game. Like you just play this game through once.
Yeah, like Red Dead
Redemption and League of Legends. You know, it's just like a very, very, very different thing.
Yeah.
Moving on to Skool.
Yes. All right, so that was a Skool post. So now we're going to actually read the Skool post here. So this is a post by Joe. He's a mid-Ari main. Taking too much resources, low impact. Hi, I've been following Coach Curtis for years on YouTube, and I decided to finally clean up my toxic view of the game and reach some higher tier. I had a really in-your-face, over-aggressive playstyle, playing for kills only and big outplays. Recently, I recognized my 1v9 mindset was holding me back and I'm trying to switch to the more poised mindset as recommended by Coach Curtis. This new mindset changed my playstyle. Now I play reactive and punish mistakes instead of forcing plays, but I found myself being less clutch and lose games I would have clutched by forcing a play previously. I'm wondering if I'm not going too much on the conservative route, being farmed and strong, but losing the game without having impact. Is there something like taking too many resources for yourself in League? Is it bad for my learning process? Any tips for someone who has gone through the same journey?
Did I reply to this one?
Did you reply to this one?
I feel like I did.
You did indeed.
So this is what I said. So there was two comments here. The first one was from Chase. There's a middle ground of being conservative and making plays. If it's calculated and played well, it may seem aggressive, but in reality, it's just making the good play. And in honesty, it's really hard to compare what old you would have done. You could be in entirely different game states when you were hyper-aggressive. Maybe you died to 2 ganks because of the aggression. And I said, like Chase said, there's a middle ground that needs to be found. My advice is, number 1, if you feel you can outplay in a moment, do it. Go with your intuition and commit boldly. And 2, if those plays you went for didn't work out, you can then employ the micro-macro framework at these pivotal junctures and then see if it indeed was a good play or executed poorly, or simply just a bad play where you executed just fine. Over time, as you make these connections, you'll realize intuitively in these moments in-game whether it's worth going for or not. So that was like a very basic kind of my response. I want to kind of add something here. One thing you'll realize when you play a lot of League is that League is very much like poker. It's a game of probability and percentages, and you don't when you're learning League, you just don't have the ability to read what is a high percentage or low percentage decision. And so when I recommend people, or like what's the word? I prescribe the micro-macro framework to people, right?
Give the medication.
What I'm trying to get them to, the skill that I'm actually trying to get them to develop is to understand is this fundamentally a high percentage and low percentage play? And as you see more of these scenarios, what's going to happen intuitively, your game sense is going to be like, well, what the likelihood of me being able to outplay this 1v2 is actually incredibly slim. It's actually a very low percentage chance. Based off the game state, it probably doesn't make any sense to go for.
So instead of doing that, I get resources.
Exactly right. So when you're starting out, you don't know what you don't know. Whether it's a low percentage, high percentage, middle percentage, you don't have the ability to reconcile the differences. So you're just going to say yes to everything and anything. And that's exactly what you should do. You should say yes to everything and anything because you don't know what you don't know. And then you calibrate over time because you're going to fail, right? You're going to go into this fight, you're going to die, and you're like, shit, I didn't factor in the wind wall. Oh, fuck, I didn't factor in the flash. Oh, shit, yeah, my teammates are in base. I'm by myself 1v3. You'll slowly, as long as you are open-minded and you are somewhat observant about what is happening and you're employing this micro-macro framework in those pivotal junctures, you will slowly but surely be able to understand what is a high percentage and what is a low percentage play. And so I this whole thing about being aggressive or, defensive and conservative and this, it's like, it's very difficult to have that conversation because, again, League of Legends is a game of it's high percentage or low percentage, and you always need to get specific. Sometimes you can be very aggressive because you have the information to allow you to be aggressive. Maybe that's just what the matchup allows you to do. Maybe you are playing Orianna into Kiana. You've got all the vision in the world. You should be aggressive. That's part of your champ's identity. That's exactly how the matchup should go. So, you can't... Talking about these things in generic kind of
you can't be like
there's no answer.
There's 2 minutes of the game where you have a window where you can be hyper aggressive, and then in 3 minutes you have to be conservative.
Yeah.
Aggressive, conservative. It's a complete flow back and forth.
Yeah.
I got my chips. I'm going this hand. It's like poker, right? This hand I'm going to be putting down because it's low percent.
Yes.
And this plan I'm going to be playing.
So you could still be playing aggressive for the majority of that game, but there's be moments where you're not going to engage because it's just not. It's just
smart thing to
low
do.
Percentage. Exactly right. So again, even though this may not be helpful, you got to just cover it make sense of those moments on a case-by-case basis.
One thing that just really pragmatic things that I see my students in the Jungle Academy, junglers, is when Baron is taken, Curtis, his team usually resets, but junglers like to sometimes go for maybe clear a quadrant or whatever. They recall. Your team is on the map, desynced, bam, they get caught, lose the whole Baron, right? So common, right?
Yeah.
And that would be, going to the title of this post, is that too much resource, low impact. You're being low impact. You're taking resources when you have the Baron window. Let's go. This is always the question where junglers get this a lot with about skipping camps. Farming junglers they're addicted to finishing their sequence, but sometimes there's literally a high percentage, as you say, you can read the play, it makes sense, counter gank to go for, skip that camp, be there.
You wouldn't even view that as an aggressive play.
No, it's just the correct play to make.
Play. It's an opportunistic play that happened, and you gather the information, and you're able to see it. So that's why it's weird to view it as an aggressive play. Like that jungler seeing that bot is heavy trading, and it's like, okay, I'm going to skip my Krugs to go for that play. That's not really aggressive. That's just like, I'm a jungler, I'm in the area, let's just kill them.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would never view it as that.
Never view it as aggressive or defensive.
It's
like a correct or a missed opportunity, or you take that opportunity or you miss it. It's that simple.
You're playing League of Legends.
Playing League of Legends.
You're playing the game.
Exactly.
This is the game. Just like, again, poker. It's like, am I going to play a 3 of hearts and 9 of clubs? It's like most people would say, probably not. Right?
But then you say depends on the situation.
Yeah, it depends.
The big blind or whatever.
Yeah.
And you showed the tendency that you're a very conservative
you might
player.
switch up
Maybe
your
you can do
that.
Yeah. There's levels to it, obviously, right? So, it just depends. But so get out of the mindset of this whole aggressive defensive, just have to cover it on a case-by-case basis. And I'll say something that I don't know what his ELO bracket was. Doesn't say, but if you're ever in doubt, a good question to ask yourself when you are going through the macro framework is this in accordance with my champ's identity? Is this what my champion wants to do? And I think with Ari players, one thing I've noticed with Ari players is that they forget that the champ is not a lane bully. That's not what your champion is. You can trade, but your mindset, you don't need to min-max your trades as an Ari. Your mindset is like, I want to farm, I want to get to level 6. I want to get to my wave clear breakpoint, and I want to complement my jungler and play for skirmishes and 2v2s and 3v3s. That's what Ari is.
That's where you start. If you're not doing that,
yes,
let's do that first.
And a lot of Aris, like they get tricked. It's like I can
see.
throw my Q at them and I can W them, I can do all this shit, and then they forget that that's just not what their champion is very good at.
Yeah.
The damage is unreliable.
I'm never scared of an Ari solo killing my lane up. No. Like they're scary in the skirmishes.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
All right, mailbag time, Curtis. Yep. Away we go. Welcome back for Nathan's mailbag. Jingle, jingle, jingle song. Alrighty then. Our first question here comes from Asakin. The title of this email is, Am I able to be good at the game? Hi, I'm Asakin. First of all, thank you so much for your podcast. It's helped me a lot and really kept my spirits up, especially during this rough split 3. I've been a league player since the end of beta. I've always enjoyed the game, and in Season 10, I decided to try hard in ranked on my favorite lane, mid. I did pretty well, at least for my humble level, with Veigar as my main, leaning into control mages as my playstyle. I joined the team, peaked at Diamond 4, and even aimed to push for Master. I took a break over the past 2 splits to focus on rebuilding my champ pool, narrowing it down to just Aurelion Sol and Veigar. Now, after 8 months of dedication and research to find out my optimal champion pool based on my player identity, as I learned in Curtis's video, I find myself in a really tough spot. I'm losing a lot of games, feeling miserable while playing, and every match feels like a world's final. It's so hard to win. I'm struggling at low plat, high gold. I've watched tons of educational content, Veigar V2's coaching on Aurelion Sol and Veigar, Patreon reviews, Curtis videos, and other mid lane coaching videos. I've literally always have an educational video open while I play. My question is, do I have what it takes to get good at the game? I'm putting in the effort, practicing diligently, but I keep doubting myself. I have a friend who used to be low gold and would play fuel every game, complain about my teammates and blame balance issues for every death. Now he's around plat 2 with seemingly no effort. Well, I feel like all my hard work is for nothing. It's starting to make me wonder if I can ever really get better. Sometimes it feels like random play would get me the same results. It even leads me to try to roll swap to jungle because it's too hard in mid. But because that situation drained my whole fun playing mid. Sorry for the long message, but I wanted to give you a complete picture. Have a beautiful day.
So I'm assuming he's still playing Asol Veigar. That is a really bad pool, by the way. It makes no sense. So we're just talking just objectively about champion pool. Those champs, like, okay, so
you're full scaling, right? Like agency.
Yeah, you have,
is that the problem?
You have 2 champs that have no lane agency and no mobility, and basically do the same thing.
I feel like going down that route, if you have the same champions, the exact same style, especially these type of champions, like for jungle, it'd be like the farming junglers, of these students that come to me who have to really fix their view of the game. The view of the game can get really, and they actually just flat out just stop improving and get worse. I've actually experienced this with when I used to play, that whole heavy farming jungler style, and I would just, every game would feel like a world's final because I just wasn't doing enough in the game. And like I would have to basically execute the team fights perfectly.
That's exactly what those champs force you to do.
Yeah, you have to execute the fights perfectly. And it's actually very difficult to actually to win games that way consistently. It's very hard. I've had way more fun and more success playing, the earlier. I mean, even with those type of junglers, you can do aggressive things. But once I started understanding, I could go for those high percentage plays and I could do things early and take over the game. Then games don't feel like world finals anymore. You're probably missing so many opportunities.
Yeah. So like, what I would say is that when you're playing champs like let's take Asol as an example, right? The mindset with Asol is that you're going to be losing the game right up until you win it. That's exactly what Asol is. Mm-hmm. You're going to lose lane.
You got to understand what you're signing up for.
You got to understand and so if you and also what the skill of Asol develops is the ability to, you got to be hyper aware of the map and look for opportunistic moments to W. Your W usage is a really big thing. So I've done a shit ton of coaching with Asol. I actually think that, look, you can make the champ work. You can definitely. I will say Asol's weaker now than what it used to be. Asol's actually gotten a lot of nerfs over.
It used to be like a lane bully, right?
It used to be very strong in lane.
Insanely
so
strong.
like my hunch is that he was. So he got to Diamond 4. I'm assuming with a lot of LP with Asol, right? Then what's happened is Asol's got weaker. The meta shifted a little bit. He was probably, let's say he was bolstered up by the fact Asol was maybe a little bit strong, whatever. Realistically, he probably was already just a mid to low emerald player anyway. If you're sitting in like low plat, it's not that much of a stretch, especially with the shift in the percentiles. It makes sense where you are, right? So first things first, what I would do is that it seems like he's long overdue to champ cycle. Don't cycle both of them. Get rid of one of them. So pick Vigar or pick Asol, pick one of them. Throw the other one in the bin. Then what we're going to do is you should cycle your second champ out to something that has more laning agency and or mobility. So either a 2v2 oriented champion or something that has lane control. So the champs that I would consider for your second position, you could go down the Galio route, you could go down the Ari route, you could play Syndra, you could play Hui, Victor. These are all champions that you could play, but they do different things. You got the lane bullet champs with strong lane like a Hui or a Victor, or maybe even a Syndra. And then you have champs that maybe want to play for 2v2s and complement maybe an aggressive jungler like a Galio or an Ari. Eventually, you might even want to have all three, and that's what would make a very well-rounded pool. You have your very niche Asol pick, you would have your 2v2 oriented champion with an Ari or Galio, and then you have your lane bully champ with like a Syndra. And that's exactly what my pool is. I have like Galio and an Ari and a Syndra because it's a very beautiful trio of champions that basically fit all situations. So, given you're in Platinum though, Gold, whatever, I would stick with two champions, and it would be Asol or Vega and one of these other champions. And that would be my suggestion.
Yeah.
And then to answer your question, is it possible to climb? Most definitely.
Yeah, and this is funny. So think about how we had to answer this question. So this person's gone through this experience. They're having like a kind of crisis because they've dropped from Diamond 4 and now they're platinum, whatever. They try the educational thing. They're just trying to hammer this Aurelion Sol Vega thing, right? And then at the end, he's summarized it for himself. Like, am I even able to get good at the game? Your approach, Curtis, the way you've answered this question, you need to get straight into the details. These are the expectations playing this type of pool. This is why you're probably struggling. Because this is why we can't just go to these extreme, end conclusions. Like the emails, like, am I able even to get good at this game? Am I lost because my friends get so good? Yeah. This is why we sort of do this podcast and why we need to get into the details because otherwise, you get to these questions that are actually just useless.
Yeah, it's not a good quality question.
It's not a good quality question.
We can understand how you got to that question.
Yeah, we make sense. But isn't it crazy? This is what happens for the normal league player, right?
Yeah.
They just have this existential crisis. Here comes the statement. Here comes the statement. So I think that's really funny. Like the way this question is presented, it gives us the details, which is fantastic for giving us the context so we can able to get into the details. I think this for him, Curtis, given you said champ pool cycle, start playing these champions that are stronger and, the 2v2 and all that, you can actually have some more laning agency. This is a pitchfork in the road for him. I want him to view this as like an exciting next step of like, I'm even happy to play these champs and go down to gold, but you will actually start developing a better understanding of the game and you actually will start feeling actual improvement by, getting out of this whole Aurelion Sol Vega thing. So this is the opportunity to take this road. And then we can sort of answer the question,
You need a champ pool cycle to expand your view of the game. Exactly right. And remember, just because let's say that this person picked, I don't know, let's say they picked Ari. They get 80 games deep on Ari. And then Ari is, it's not really for me. You can champ pool cycle to another one. Or you love Ari, and then you can champ pool Asol out and then put in Syndra, and then you completely reinvigorate your pool. You could do that as well. But realistically, you're spot on, Nathan. This person just needs to view this as a we're just changing course, new path, fresh start.
New player. We talk about the evolution.
Exactly.
This is the next evolution for him and he's in the game.
Exactly right.
Curtis, what about for the extreme of like try out Yone or like the melee mids?
You can, but typically,
or is that too much?
Typically, I prefer to ease them into it.
Okay.
Like I think if you're going straight from Vigar into Yone, it's like holy shit. It's a very, 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 very different experience. So typically, I would say, okay, if we're gonna go, if you want to go down that route, we can get there, but you would go down other routes. And also, by the way, if he's playing Vigar Asol, I can bet your bottom dollar that he's not an assassin player. He doesn't want to play assassin.
I see.
You know what I mean? That's why I recommended those other champs.
Okay.
So, yeah. So let us know.
That's exciting.
Let us know how it goes. I think it is exciting. And you can do it, man. I have 100 trillion% faith in your ability to get to Diamond.
All right, and next one here comes from Kyle. The title of this email is Weird/Unclear Champion Identity, or are they simply not figured out yet? Hello, Nathan and Curtis. I'm Kyle, and I am an OTP Echo mid that hit Emerald, but suddenly got burned out of him and started learning Diana mid until that fire is back. I started winning more, even when making silly little mistakes in lane because her damage is so much higher in the early game, and I'm used to minimizing losses in bad matchups from playing Echo. The way he wrote that there, Curtis, reminded me of, what's that painter called? Is it Bob Ross or whatever? It's a happy little accident or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You said silly little mistakes. Just silly little mistakes. All is nice and good until I get out of lane because Diana is such an unintuitive champion to play teamfight skirmishes. With Echo, there are so many high percentage plays because of his ultimate, but with Diana, it feels like there is a single good one and that I have to recognize it pretty fast. It is exciting because the sole reason for your team winning when it works rather than playing the hit and run poise playstyle of Echo. Well, this being said, I'm curious what are you making of Diana's champ identity? My easiest games are the ones where I feel like I can win any 1v1, so I choose split pushing for pretty good and safe results. Is she supposed to build Zhonya's and play a prolonged fight, or is she supposed to build full damage and use phase rush to disengage after a kill? I think the response is that it depends on the situation, and that it is why I find it so exciting and yet so confusing. The high elo games I've seen with her look like she's played as a reckless cheese pick, abusing the high numbers and AP ratios for quick wins, but I might be wrong, and I'm excited to find out why. On this topic, would you recommend hard champions like Yone, Akshan for a few games to test out different perspective for a few games? I feel like when I will go back to Echo, I will waste a lot less ultimates because of how important the right time of going in felt with Diana. I don't know if I will stick with her, but for me, it is very fun figuring out a less linear champion than my main one. I wonder if Echo was my training wheels for being able to play a more chaotic champion like Diana, or if this is the only honeymoon phase. Thank you in advance for all the wisdom helping people improve at the game and much more.
Yeah, Diana is very, like, the lane is straightforward, right? You want to have the wave on your side. Trading patterns are relatively straightforward. When you're strong and weak is relatively straightforward. The challenge Diana faces is exactly what this person said, which is the skirmishes. You're very one-dimensional in the sense that, if you go in and you don't know your limits and you pick the wrong angle, as you know, you've played a bit of Diana, you're very useless.
You're a full melee champ with no escape.
Yep, pretty simple. And that's why a lot of Dianas also love phase rush, because it allows you to go in and then reposition. So, look, ultimately, the identity of Diana is that she's a skirmisher. She's a skirmish-oriented assassin. She needs to be you need to really know your limits. You need to be patient. You need to be poised. You need to know when you can and can't go in, and that's what she teaches. And so I'm actually redoing the Diana guide at the moment for my MLA with a Diana OTP in my program. And it's so interesting because I've been looking at the slides that we're doing for the guide, and it said it's a misconception that Diana likes chaos. It's actually a misconception. It's actually the exact opposite of what this person said. Diana wants actually a more slower, more structured game because Diana can't do a lot of things. Yeah. What she does well. But if things are going everywhere and everyone's separated and there's too much shit going on, you're going to go, you're not going to be able to farm. Your champ can't handle that very well.
It's definitely the case for jungle. Jungle, you want very structured. Full clear ult, full clear ult, full clear ult.
Exactly right. And that's exactly the case in mid lane as well. So it's weird because the kit almost tricks you into thinking that it would want chaos, but it actually doesn't. It's not a very adaptable kit. So, I would say it's just, to summarize the identity, it's just a very, burst-oriented skirmisher a diver. Really, that's what it is. It's a diver.
The title of this email said Weird Unclear Champion Identity, or they simply not figured out yet. I find people really struggle to grasp these champions that are really simple identities. Like, they're too simple. People think it just can't be that simple, but it is.
Yeah.
And people think that simple is bad as well.
I guess it's because as well, like we have so many kits nowadays.
Yeah.
That are so complicated.
Yeah.
Like
so you're just trying to compare it.
Like
and you're
we have
just
so many jack of all. Like think about the recent kit of like Ambassa or whatever her name is. Like holy shit! Like you look at the champions now.
It's crazy that we exist in the same world. It's like Ambessa and Diana.
Yeah, it's not even.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Cassante and Diana.
And yeah, I mean, I've got my gripes with that. I've got a video coming out with Shock soon where I kind of talk about how I'm very critical of like kits like Corkies and Swains and you know and even Casio. You think about these champions, they just wouldn't really be a thing anymore.
You wouldn't make them.
You wouldn't make them now.
Yeah.
They need to be reworked or they need to be significantly. Things need to be done to them.
What about Galio out of curiosity?
I think Galio's kit makes sense though.
Yeah,
and it's versatile.
Yeah,
can be doing many things. What was the other part of the question? Should they play other champs?
Yeah, would you recommend hard champions like Yone Akshan for a few games to help test out different perspectives for a few games?
I don't know what his rank was. Did he say what his rank was?
No.
I mean, it's hard to say.
Oh, he said he's hit Emerald.
Oh, okay. Well, then, yeah, you can if you want to. If you want to experiment with harder champs, you can. You don't have to. That's totally up to you. You know, I think typically the most archetypal assassin, AP assassin, is actually a Kali. I think a Kali is a really good assassin that a lot of people should try, especially if you're an Emerald. I think it's a great assassin to play around with.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge in a different way. You're more slippery, you're harder to kill, but you have way less wave clear. So the thing with a Kali is that it really teaches you to be on point with your trades, with your resets, and your ability usage in a different way. And skill shots. So I think that a Kali would probably be the natural progression there, in my opinion. If you enjoy it, of course.
Yeah, I always forget about Akali for some reason, even though...
Akali's a very good champion.
I've gone through phases of banning Akali a lot, Curtis, in my solo queue. I always forget sometimes.
The two champs, by the way, that are on what I want to do. So you know how this season where this split we're trying to get Challenger or whatever?
Yeah.
The two champs that I actually want to learn, seriously...
Really?
Is I want to properly go deep, like deep on Akali and LeBlanc.
Interesting.
They're my two that I know I've eyed them. I know I've got my eyes set on LeBlanc and Akali.
Very interesting. I mean, these are great mid lane solo queue champs that have like stood the test of time, right?
Yeah, and they're just too consistent. And you've
got to learn them eventually.
You got to learn that, but I want to learn them to a high level. Like I want them to be
yeah.
like a core champion.
I see.
You know,
you can play with your eyes closed.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to require. But I need to get in the reps.
All right, next one here comes from Marcos. The title of this email is "How to Deal with Limited Time to Play." Hello, Broken by Concept. First of all, thanks for everything you do for the league community. I watch tens of Coach Curtis videos. I thought I was going to say tens and thousands of Coach Curtis videos. And it really helps me climb from gold to Diamond 1. Almost hit Masters, but got a huge loss streak after 90 LP. There is no such content available for Brazilian league players, so I appreciate your work so much. Keep going. This guy's from Brazil. Awesome. Secondly, I would like to see you guys' opinion on how hard it is for players that do not have much free time to actually improve their rank at the game. With this 3 splits per year mechanic from Riot, I usually only have time to play 2 to 3 games a day at most, and usually it takes me 1 to 2 months to get back to the rank I was. But this is getting harder and harder every split. This split Riot placed me in Platinum 1, even though I was Diamond 4 with a 60% win rate over 60-ish games. For me, it is a weird situation because I feel like I am smurfing every game in Emerald, but I am not that much better to solo carry every game. As an example, almost every game I am ahead of the enemy laner. I am ADC, Ezreal OTP, and I feel like smurfing because their laning skills are just not enough to match my skills. I usually win even the hardest matchups, Draven plus Engage, Lucian Nami, Kalista anything, Jhin anything. It is really frustrating for me to think that even having like a 60% win rate, it takes me 2 months to get back to my elo, and then I have only half season to actually improve a play against players of my skill level. Also, I have a big insecurities with my current rank when it is below Diamond, even though I'm kind of smurfing every game. So half of the season is spent just trying to prove that I'm still good at the game, and the other half is for actual improvement. There is no way for me to play more games a day, since I have a full-time job, girlfriend, and also exercise to keep my body healthy. Thanks in advance. Cheers from all the bot laners watching BBC.
Well, you got to be careful here because, again, we've made it very vocal in this podcast that this split, there was
it's a little bit different.
The MMR reset. So I literally said this to someone, right? I said, you are versing the exact same players you were versing in last split, just at a different elo bracket. And I said, check. I said, go to any of your games and go. They went on their OPGG. They looked at the mid laner that they versed in the last game, and they were the exact, like, they were playing this now in Platinum, but they were all both Emerald in last split. So you're getting tricked. You think that you're not versing players of your ELO bracket, but you are. Like, so you, even now, go to where you are now, look at their last season rank.
Of the people in your games.
They will
probably Diamond.
They will probably Diamond 4 High Emerald.
Yeah.
Right. So you actually, in a way, you think you're smurfing when in reality, maybe you were always smurfing, even in Diamond 4. Maybe you were just always improving, or maybe you're tricking yourself. Maybe you're not. Maybe you just think you are. So I don't know. I can't really comment without looking at your gameplay about how much better you are than everyone else in the game. But as of this split specifically, you got to remember the rank system's not exactly the same. So you're getting tricked there a little bit. So I agree with you. I hate the 3 splits. I mean, I'm pissed that they have done the 3 splits. I think we say this every episode. It is what it is. Whether or not they keep it, we don't know. But I guess you should have faith in knowing that the games that you are playing right now, you're not versing worse players. I would beg to differ.
So the title of this email is How to Deal with Limited Time to Play. And this is a Master Tier player or former Master Tier player. Now, when you're getting to these ranks, if he's playing 2 games a day, he's got to understand that it's going to be, like, I assume that what the title of this email is, how do I, like, improve while playing 2 games a day in Master Tier? You sort of need to play the game, in a way, a little bit more than that.
Is he Master or is he Diamond?
Well, he says he got to Master 90 LP, right?
Yeah.
He's been in Diamond and stuff like that. So I feel like sometimes, these people with the limited time to play, like, it's going to be a very, not to say you can't improve, but it's going to be way slower than obviously playing, 6 games a day, or having playing 6 games one day, 3 games, 4 games and stuff. So I always, when I get these questions specifically from these, like, higher ranked tiers, like, it's not going to be like you climb from gold to emerald and maybe like a split. You're not going to see those big changes with those amount of games.
No, you're actually spot on. And this actually raises an important question then. It's like, okay, if you run that thought experiment, so I'm playing 2 games a day and then I can't play on a weekend. So I'm going to get 10 ranked games a week, right? Realistically, you're not going anywhere. You're probably going to be staying at the very same rank. You're probably going to be barely maintaining, right? Barely.
In the high rank specifically as well,
Master
I'm talking
Plus
about Master Plus,
right?
yeah.
Now, because Master Plus, in order to push, it's hard. It's very competitive, right? So then the question becomes, okay, well, are you happy to just play those 10 games? You're having fun on those 10 games. It is what it is. Or is there other ways to make that journey more fun? Maybe you want to spend that time learning new champions. Do you want to try and, like, to complete the side quests, if you will, of your league journey? Do you want to get better at your secondary role? Do you want to, expand your champion pool instead of being an Ezreal OTP, expand your pool into other things? So you're not necessarily climbing the ranks and getting better at Ezreal, but maybe you can become a more intelligent, smarter, develop a more holistic view of the game. There are other things you can do to do that, right? That's another thing that maybe he wants to do, given that his situation.
I'm sure that, eventually he'll be able to play more time. If he really wants to take this hobby seriously, I'm sure there will be moments in his...
Because 2 games a day, right? If you think about that relative to, like, in time, right? That's probably what, an hour, just over an hour?
Yeah.
Right? Assuming queue times you're playing in the afternoon, probably an hour and 10 minutes or something, right?
Yep.
If you're spending an hour and 10 minutes on your hobby, that's not long a day. That's really, really, really not long. So you should theoretically be able to get 3 games in. And then at that point, if you're playing 5 days a week and you're not playing on the weekend at all, that's 15 games. And if you get a three block on a weekend, 18. If you can push that to 18 to 21.
21 is good.
That's good. Like, you can make progress.
Yes.
And you can definitely make progress, pretty significant progress. So, look, maybe the way you should view it is that if you're getting that 10 games a week, yeah, realistically, you're not getting anywhere. 15 games, you're making progress, but slowly. 18 to 21, that's when you can make pretty significant progress. So, yeah, maybe that's a question for your lifestyle as well. What are you willing to put in? How important is it for you to make that push to Master Plus,
Yeah, I mean, we get these questions a lot of, like, how do I problem solve, like, my time issue? And it's like, it's very difficult. You only have 24 hours
because
a day.
It's
about prioritizing.
It's about prioritization. It depends on how much you care about it as well. Like, he sounds like he goes to the gym, right? He's just saying, All right, let's use the gym. Talk about gym for a second. You might get to a point where you have a physique that you're happy with, right? And you know that if you want to like push and get bigger and stronger, you're going to have to put way more. You're going to have to go to the gym more often. You're going to have to spend more time in the gym. You're going to have to put more effort in. Some people may not want that. They might
less times a week for like 40 minutes instead of like 4 to 5 days a week for like, an hour and a half.
Yeah. So my point, yeah, exactly right. And that's a personal decision. It depends on what you want to get out of your time at the gym, right? So I think that it really just depends on what you want. And I think there is going to be an important discussion with yourself that has to be had.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I always feel these type of questions. It's like, we don't really have an answer for you.
No.
You got to do what, you prioritize, you got a job, you got priorities, we only have so much time in a day.
Yeah.
So
yeah, hopefully it gives them something to think about.
But awesome to see, a Brazilian audience, Curtis. People in Brazil. All right, well, that wraps up our episode for today, Curtis. Good work, guys. Keep on improving. 3-block process, playing high-intensity games. We'll see you guys next week.